Hi everyone, and welcome to Lesson 2. Today we're going to be looking at how to manipulate the formatting of each individual element so we can move things around the page and set the script up in a format that works for us. Once again, I encourage you to make this video full screen while you're watching. That way you'll be able to see where I'm pointing and clicking, and we're going to be looking at a lot of little details today, so that would definitely be a way to see things better. Also, feel free to put me on pause and go and try things yourself. I think that's a really great idea. We're looking at little fussy details today, so giving them a try yourself to sort of get them into your brain is definitely a good idea. So we're going to get started. I hope you downloaded the example document that I provided in the blog post. This one is a fade-in template. It's .fadein is the extension, so we don't need to import it like we did with the rich text files. We can just open it like we would in a regular word processor. So we go to File, Open. Then you can navigate yourself to wherever it is that you saved it in your computer. Mine is right here, so I'm just going to open that. And we have our script in front of us. The very first thing we're going to want to look at in most cases is the page layout. We want the margins to be set before we start messing with the elements, because the elements all take their measurements from the margins, not from the edge of the page. So if you've gone through and made all of your elements beautiful the way you want them and then realize that the margins aren't the setting that they need to be, you're going to have to go back and redo everything. So the way we look at margins is Document, Page Layout, and we get this dialog box. Here it shows us we're dealing with 8.5 by 11 inch letter paper. In the UK, you might have A4. And I think you could possibly set the page width and height as you wish, but we're going to leave it with 8.5 by 11. Here we can see what the margins are set to, and you can see it's not the 1 inch all the way around default for PlayScript. So I'm just going to go and change these. So it's 1 inch on the top and 1 inch on the right. You just click in it and then you can type. Here, 1 inch on the bottom. On the left, I'm going to put 1.5 inches, which is the standard to allow for hole punching on the side so you don't accidentally lose any text. And click OK. If you keep an eye over here on the document behind, you'll see it shift as the margins go into play. So now that the margins are set where we want them, we can look at the formatting of each individual element. You could use the margins to just push everything over an extra inch or two if you want, but that would push this as well, because this would maintain its distance from the set margin. So this would start to move over even though the margin isn't technically touching it yet. It would affect every single element on the page if you manipulated things that way. So instead we're going to go to Format, Element Styles, and Modify Element Styles. And here we're going to choose which one. I'm going to imagine in this scenario that the dialogue is in the way of our calling post-its, or however it is that you mark your cues in the page. So we're going to see about moving that over a little bit without touching anything else on the page. This is the dialog box you'll get no matter which of the elements you selected to mess with. Here it's dialogue. You can change the name. I would suggest that you don't. Just for now, I'll get into the details, I think, in another lesson, because it starts getting into the nitty-gritty of how this all works. This is where you can change the font for just this element. So if you wanted just the dialogue to be in a different font, to be in a different color, to be underlined, italic, or bold, this playing here will affect just the dialogue. You can change the font to make just the dialogue bigger and easier to read. It's up to you. These are options that are available to you. If you wanted to change the font for the whole document, which is something that is more likely than just wanting to change it for the dialogue, you could do it element by element. If you wanted it to be for the whole document, you'd have to go through each of these elements and change it one by one. But there is actually a way to do it for the whole document at once. You can see base element here. This is the element that this element has taken its formatting from. So here it's normal text, which is not an option that we get. It's an element that exists solely for the purpose of being a base element for all the other ones. And it gives us a really quick way to change the formatting of the whole thing all at once. So if we go to Format, Element Styles, Modify Element Styles, you can see up here, normal text is an option that we get to modify, whereas it's not an option we get to use. So if we modify normal text, which is the base element for all of these default ones, let's say we want actually Times New Roman because we're not working in screenplays. We would much rather have this. So now Times New Roman 12 point is the format for normal text. We click OK. It's going to warn us this is not a standard font for screenplays. That's fine, we don't care. And here it tells us this will affect all the built-in element styles based on normal text. So anything based on normal text will take the formatting that we're going to impose onto normal text. So we say okay, and look, all of the elements at once have switched to Times New Roman. So if you want to modify the font for the whole entire document, that's a really quick way to do it. So now we're going to go back to our dialogue, format, element styles, modify element styles, and dialogue is still the one in the way for us. So we're going to go down and look here. The left indent is 0 inches, and that's 0 inches from the margin, not from the end of the page. So whatever you put in here is going to be in addition to the 1.5 inches that we already have of margin space. So let's just say we need another 1/2 inch. It's just a little too close to the margin for us. We can't fit our post-its in. Excuse me. So we're going to put 1/2 inch there. The right indent is fine. It can run all the way to the edge of the page. Spacing before is, it will automatically, here it's 0, so there's no blank space before. If for character, for example, you don't want the character name butted up against the dialogue of the previous speaker, so we want a blank line in there. So there, for character, this would be set to 1. You get 1 blank space, and that way you don't have to have any, you don't have to mess with it yourself. There's not any blank lines that should have stuff in them. It just automatically puts that space in there. And that's how we manipulate the formatting of the whole document just with this. The line spacing of the dialogue itself is single spaced. If you wanted a bit more room to fit things in between, we could make it 1.5 spaced. You could even make it double spaced. It starts to look not like a play at that point. Keep with next is a great function. It's not checked for dialogue, but it would be checked for character. So in the instance, which can be super frustrating, is you get a character name right at the bottom of the page and then their dialogue starts on the next page. If not for dialogue, but if we were playing with the character name, this would be checked, which means that if the dialogue gets bounced onto the next page, the character name goes with it because they are always kept together. We don't want it for the dialogue because it would glue the dialogue to the next speaker or to any stage directions that came after it. But we can go in and look at character afterwards and you'll see that this is checked, which is a great function. You don't need to look for those widowed character names at the bottom of every page. Right, so let's see what happens when we apply these changes. So now it's moved over 1/2 inch, which gives us enough room here for whatever cues we want to put in. And we've changed the formatting of the dialogue to 1.5 spaces. So yeah, that's a quick way to modify things. I think for people who are prompting, perhaps bumping the size of the dialogue to a larger font would be super helpful too, make it easier to read on the page. We can look at character names, which we talked about earlier. So the character, if we wanted to modify the element style for character, here it's all, this is checked for uppercase because character names are always in uppercase. This means no matter how it was typed in, if it was a mix of upper and lower, it doesn't matter, it will always be presented in uppercase. It's got an indent of 2.5 inches from the 1.5 inch margin. So that's 4 inches from the edge of the page, which is standard for play scripts. It's got the 1 line before, which means there's 1 empty space to give us this nice formatting on the page. You could bump it up to 2 or 1.5 if you want it spread out a bit more. And here it's got the keep with next checked, which means it will always be kept with the element that comes after it, which is almost always dialogue. Another option it could be is parenthetical, like if it was an aside, or if it was to so-and-so, or they read it angrily. All of those are called parentheticals in this script. So let's just make our changes. We've just decided we want a bit more space between the characters. So that spaced it out on the page for us. And if we look at format element styles, modify elements, parenthetical, we can see it is also kept with next. So you'll never get a character name and then angrily and then the dialogue on the next page. All of those things will stay together and get bumped across page breaks together automatically. Again, it has 0 spaces before because we don't want a space between the character name and whatever comes in parentheses. And it's got indents, which is 2 inches from the 1.5 inch margin, and then 2 inches from the right margin as well. One thing I don't know how to manipulate is it puts the parentheses in automatically. And I don't know how to control for that. I don't think we get an option for it in our dialog box. It's not one that I found yet. So for example, if we wanted parentheses around our stage directions, which is something that happens sometimes in various formats of PlayScript, I'm not sure how to create that by ticking a box. But if I figure it out, I will let you know. So yeah, that's a quick look at the various ways to manipulate element styles. Don't be scared to go and give it a try yourself, move things around the page. You're not going to break anything. Whatever you do will only apply to this one document. It's not going to apply to any other documents that you open. If you would like to set up a template, so for Playwrights, if you decide that you want to create for your submission, this one requires that character names be 3.5 inches from the margin, or it requires this particular setup, you can create that. So if you manipulate the elements and set up one page the way that you want it, let's say we always want our calling scripts, for instance, to have this much space on the side, and we want everything spaced out nicely, which gives us room to get in between the lines. So we've decided this is our ideal format for either submitting a play or for our calling script. You can set it up as a template so that the next time you import a script, all you have to do is apply the template. And then you don't have to go through and manipulate the elements every single time. So in order to do that, you go to File, Templates, Save as Template. So whatever manipulations you've done will be saved as a template, and you can call it whatever you want. You can call it, we're applying to, XYZ Theater. You could call it XYZ Theater Template. You could call it Calling Script Template. I'm going to call it Test for the moment because it's not one that I particularly want to keep myself. And you can see here, it's got a double-barreled extension. It's .fadein.template. And anything that is .fadein.template, the program will know to import. So there's 2 ways. Now we save it, and it says, would you like to automatically install your saved template? So it's going to load it up for you. You don't have to do anything. It'll just be there next time. You say yes. And then if we go to File, Templates, and we want to apply a template, like we've just imported a document, and we want to apply that template that we've just created, you go File, Templates, Apply Template, and then you can scroll down, and here is my test that I just created. If I click on it now, it's not going to do anything because it was based off this format, so nothing's going to move. But that's a quick way to do it. If you missed that, or you got confused, or you saved it somewhere and it didn't automatically load itself, and you want to load it, you can go to File, Templates, Manage Templates. And this is where, say there's one in here that you don't want, it's getting in your way, you never want to see a screenplay again. Oh, it's not going to let us remove screenplay because that's what it's built for. But say one of these was getting up your nose and you wanted to get rid of it, you can just highlight it and click Remove. It's going to ask you, are you sure? And that will delete a template. Let's say you created it and it's not what you want anymore. You realized something actually had to move an extra 1/2 inch. You can delete the old one. And if you wanted to, you missed whatever window didn't pop up, or you clicked the wrong thing in a panic. Here's my test.fadein.template. So I clicked install on the dialog box and it asked me what I want to install. So I found this wherever I saved it, click open, and now it's back. So we have this template that we can upload. You can see here I've created a few others. A couple of them, the Stage Play BBC and the Stage Play Times New Roman, are already available for download. If you go to the same page where you downloaded the trial run, for Fade In, if you scroll down the page, there's an option to download a package of templates. And there's one for Stage Play. And the Stage Play BBC, hang on, I'm going to get out of here. The Stage Play BBC is probably one that you'll be familiar with. I'm going to apply a template. Stage Play BBC, and that's the one where all the character names are on the left side and all their dialogue is on the right. So we haven't had to deal with removing a page break for each individual one and then setting up margins and stuff. It just did that automatically, which is great. So that with just a few clicks, we completely rearranged the appearance of the page, which is super exciting. So those ones are available for download from the Fade In website. If anybody has trouble finding them, let me know and I'll provide a link. And I also created a few myself by going through and looking at the individual requirements. So the Dramatists Guild had examples of this is how a page should be laid out. So I created some templates for that. So if I ever want to submit a play to an opportunity that insists it must have Dramatists Guild formatting, I can just click the template and it's done. So yes, if you have any questions, please pop by the website and leave them there. I'm sure if you have a question, somebody else does too, and that way I can answer them for everybody in an upcoming lesson. I encourage you to play with the sample file that I've given you and apply all sorts of templates and create your own and play with the elements. Again, you're not going to break anything, and it's a really good practice to figure out what might work for you in terms of whatever your needs are for calling scripts or for submitting scripts. I think it's super great to get comfortable with this so you don't feel nervous about using them. Again, if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. And otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you again for the next lesson. Thanks so much. Bye.